On today's show, we are talking about how men we can't get out of living a fantasy. We might step on a few toes, that's not our intent, but it's going to be interesting. Let's talk about it.
Thank you for tuning in. We are Tristin and Michael, and you are listening to Fused, transparent conversations for marriage, family, and relationships. We invite you to join us as we discuss topics that are thought about but not talked about, so tell your friends and family to check us out. And join us online on all our social media handles and our website, fusedmarriages.com.
How you doing today?
I am so great.
Great. I like your smile.
Yes. Oh, thanks, babe.
I can tell how great you're doing is by your smile.
Oh.
You know what? I was watching a movie or something. It's like, and they were saying, people, you can smile with your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really smile, you smile with your mouth and your eyes.
Yes.
So I saw your smile, but I saw your smile with your mouth and your eyes. I was like, okay, that's a real smile.
Oh. Tyra Banks used to call that smizing. I think that's who used, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
With models, she would say smize.
Okay.
I think that was Tyra Banks. I want to give her credit for it because I feel like that's where I heard it. But
that makes sense.
Well, thank you. You're looking very handsome. I like that. I like the look.
You like it?
And I like the fit today.
You know, you helped me out a little bit.
I know. It looks good on you.
Okay. I try to do a little something.
At one point you did say you would not wear flowers, and now
I did. But I think these look all right, though.
Yeah.
These look all right.
So are you going to start wearing pink too?
We'll work toward that.
Okay.
We'll work toward that. Maybe there's nothing wrong with pink on guys or anything, but you know.
I would think, like Easter Sunday, like you have a whole pink suit with a fedora and a pink feather.
I come in looking sharp.
Come on.
I come looking sharp. I had to close my eyes on that one like, oh, they not ready for that. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that.
Okay. Well, we are getting into something and this topic today, because that might be my fantasy, is to see you in a full pink suit with... I think it might be interesting. But speaking of, our conversation today is about fantasies, living a fantasy, the great escape. So I'm really curious about this conversation because we're really going to be looking at the men's perspective about, fantasies, escapisms, and those sort of things. So why don't we kind of jump in? What are your thoughts this week?
I think us as guys, I'm gonna say guys, even as little boys, right? We often we live out fantasies a little bit, kind of as a little boy. So when I was a little boy, my mom used to get a towel, put a little clip on it, put it around my neck, kind of hang down to the back of my legs, and I thought I was Superman. Mm-hmm. So I would run around the house looking back at the cape, flinging back, whatever, jumping off the porch, because I wanted to be Superman. Why Superman? He's powerful, he can fly, he had all these special powers. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I think we just get in the mindset, right, even as little boys, like, man, we want to be something strong and something people look up to. And I don't know if that stops though, right? Because as you get older, potentially, you keep trying to pursue those fantasies. That's what I want to talk about a little bit today.
So you're saying the fantasy really never stops from being a boy to being a man. Right. Okay. Well, we invite all of the ladies in our listening audience to tune in, tell a friend, and I'd also like men chime in here because we're going to be hearing this from a male's perspective. Let us know if this is your experience or if maybe you have variations in that. So we definitely want to hear from you. Comment, like, share, and let's continue this dialogue. Okay, so as we're looking at the idea of men living out this fantasy. Right. One of the ways that I have seen it, and I'd love to hear your feedback, is in maybe living out a fantasy in the sports world or the video game world even. What's your thoughts?
No, two good ones. Sports is probably the easy one, right? Because I think a lot of boys end up, playing sports, looking up to sports athletes, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a football or NBA player or soccer, whatever have you, right? We often look up to these athletes that we think, man, I want to aspire to be like them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fine, right? I think that's not a big deal. But as you notice, say at 10 and then at 14 and at 18, but then you got, we get 25 and 30, you have some men, like there's no cutoff. They're still looking up to these athletes. Like that's what they aspire to be and see and do. They see, see the money they have. They may see the women that they maybe kind of, how women are looking at them. And in their mind, I'm gonna say in our mind, we're kind of imagine like, man, when I wonder what it's like to be them. Right. And what we get stuck in is in the mindset of, right, we're in this fantasy like, hey, I don't like my life, but I like the life of this person I see on Sundays that's playing at 12 p.m. So I'm gonna go all in and just I can't miss no game. I got a jersey on. I might be painting my face. We make a big deal because we're literally placing ourselves into that person's shoes, imagining like what is it like to be them.
So then what would you say is the difference between like a super fan, somebody that is really just, I think this is a great player, I enjoy them, versus somebody that is maybe envying or fantasizing about them being in that person's shoes?
Yeah, I mean, a super fan, can you define a super fan for me?
Yeah, super fans, they might go to the game and they might paint their face and they might have the jersey, they might know the stats. Because in my mind, I wouldn't say that is somebody that's fantasizing. That might just be somebody that's really into sports or really into a specific player, whether it's football or American soccer or, like or I guess American football because football. But anyway, so how would you differentiate between somebody that is clearly fantasizing about a life that is not theirs and then somebody that is just really appreciative of the craft?
Yeah, I think a great question. I think it's a fine line, right? But one thing I think that would help distinguish that, if you know what, you're spending more time in that person's life, whether it's on Instagram, they're looking at that, you watching highlight clips, you can't miss a game. You got to go to a game. Like you start almost like
building your life around.
Yes, building your life around that team or that person, whatever have you. Ain't nothing wrong with being a fan. You know what I mean? I grew up in, with Michael Jordan era, followed him, this, that, and the other. I was adult when he was, about to retire and all that kind of stuff. I followed Kobe. I mean, there's nothing wrong with personally being a fan, but I think it's hard to see it, right? Because something on the inside that people start putting themselves into, so they may not publicly see it. Some you can.
Yeah. Because
they may just go too far. Like, man, okay, like, man, they got, they 35 years old and got a wall, that got another man on it. Like, I mean, it may go, that's an obvious one, but most of us may not do that. But in our hearts, we're like, man, we're still living that little boy fantasy. I love this player because I admire him and I want to be like them. We still want to be like yourself. You're a grown man now. And that's a shift we have to make.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I don't know that I had seen it before, but I can, as you're talking about wanting to be this person, the idea of envy, like not even like I'm trying to tear them down, but man, I want to be in that. And we see that potentially with like a lot of not just sports, but in the entertainment realm, even with like people in an entourage per se. Not to say that people don't have their friends and everybody's on the come up together. Right. That's fine. But you start to see like people that want to place themselves in proximity so that they can reap some of the benefits of that person's work or life. And that can be too kind of this fan lifestyle, like because that might be to an entertainer, but the same can be said in workplace culture. I want to sit next to the manager. I want to be up under this person, or I want to be sitting next to the first lady of the church or the pastor of the church, or, I want to sit next to this person in the boardroom or on the school board meeting. So that idea of fantasy, I think you can start to, if we're again being introspective and reflective, you can start to look, are there people in that power position in sports, but also just in your day-to-day life? Are you living your life? Are you surrounding your life with people, or are making your life surround people that you want to be?
Right.
Did that make sense?
No, it does make sense. That makes sense a lot. I think it happens a lot, right? Where people want to try to, be influential, right? With, they see somebody they want to attach to, whether it's power, whether it's money, and they want to be connected with that. For me, that I look at that a little bit different than fantasy. Okay. Because fantasy, in my mind at least, it establishes saying, hey, deep down, I'm not really happy with myself, with where I'm at.
But I think that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
People, so maybe I wasn't as clear. I think some people place themselves in proximity so that they can reap the benefits of that person's work because they're not okay with them. So I want to be close to, I want to be close to the pastor because the pastor gets this attention. And when I go home, I'm by myself. So I want to do everything to make the pastor like me and all the people around the pastor like me, because that makes me have value and that makes me more like the pastor than I am in my real life. Because if I put too much distance, then I actually have to deal with me. And not to say that there's anything wrong with being next to the pastor or being a friend of the, the school board president, none of those things. But I think it does come to what you were saying is I'm trying to live somebody else's life and pull from their life because I'm not okay with me.
No, absolutely. 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 I think I agree with what you said, just because you clarified that. So I appreciate that. A lot of us guys, we would never admit that, right? To say, hey, I'm trying to, live another man's life, this, that, and the other. But if we never break that trend, that's really I'm looking at from whenever we're little kids as young boys. And that admiration doesn't shift to say, hey, I'm personalizing myself and I'm the center of where I'm trying to go, not this other person that I'm idolizing.
Is it possible then, speaking to maybe some of our women viewers, how would we see that if we notice something in our spouse or sibling or parent where they are exhibiting kind of this fantasy life? Is there anything that we can say? Is because to the men's perspective, you're saying they wouldn't admit it out loud themselves. What if we see it? What does that encounter look like? Or do we not say anything?
Okay, so a great question for one. How would you recognize it? One way I would recognize it would be if they try to escape often.
Okay, explain.
They're looking for an escape. So sports can be an escape, right? Which can be healthy. They can be exercising or they want to watch a game. Nothing wrong with that. But it's almost like they go from this life to this life. It's almost like literally like, hey, I'm a banker, but then I'm painting my belly. Like that's two different. Like that's an escape. Right, from really what you are with the bankers, I'm being a banker or whatever have you. All jobs are really important in society, but like they shift to this other life, and I think, to me, another thing that points it out is video games.
Yeah,
right?
mention that one. Yeah.
So video games is this idea of you got this screen that you're watching, and you're putting yourself in that screen, in whatever game you're playing. You're sitting here, but you're in the game. You're not, nothing goes on. Somebody got headphones on and like you come knock on the door, they don't even hear nothing because literally they're in the game. And nothing wrong playing video games. I don't play them anymore. I stopped years ago.
I really like Duck Hunt.
Oh my goodness.
Oregon Trail.
Oh
what?
My goodness.
What?
Hey, that's about what, 89?
Don't care.
80.
I'd still play Duck Hunt and Pac-Man.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Right. That's funny right there. She said, Duck Hunt. That's good, but no. But I can't even tell what games people play. I know they're out there, and it's a big industry.
Right.
Right. And people will say, I'm playing games and the others, and they'll say it's my escape. You got to put two and two together. Okay, nothing wrong with it. Getting away. Everybody need to escape. I go take a walk. So I need to escape. Everybody needs some kind of escape too. I ain't nothing wrong with video games. Just, you can't not play. I'm not against video games, but you can get so into them,
sucked in,
that literally it becomes a world. Some games, I believe you can build a world.
Yeah, I remember that. There was a game that you could build a whole life.
There is.
There is.
You said, well, don't say no.
There are.
Wait, don't say this because you're talking about some old, probably. What are you talking about? You know the name of it?
The Sims.
The Sims.
Sims aren't around anymore.
I don't know. I'm out of my element when talking about. I know people have them, but I know which new ones are out there.
So then, what is the line then? Because I have a couple more I want to kind of talk about from a male perspective. Yeah. But what is the line then from having healthy escapes from your perspective? Things that you do that are just, hey, I gotta get away. Life is hard. Life is stressful. I need something that is a pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Where does that line draw between, hey, I'm living in a fantasy world versus, I'm taking a moment to escape, but I'm doing something that I enjoy.
I would say time. And I would say time, how much time you spending on it?
Mm-hmm.
And like everybody has to, decide what that is for them. Everybody has different amount of time and extra time and this, that, and the other. Some of us don't have extra time to, we don't have 3 hours or 4 hours every day.
Yeah.
And some people are doing that, right? If you have 4 hours every day, maybe, you're successful and you got that, you can do that, right? Because I built my life, I'm established, I got my career. But some of us should be producing things, making things, talking to people, but we're spending 2 or 3 hours every day.
That's a good distinction, because you said that and it started making me think there are escapes and fantasies that you can live even outside of being a fan of somebody else.
Right.
Like you use the example going to in sports. We have some golfers, but sometimes people can use golf. Hey, I'm going to golf to get away from life, or hey, I'm going to the court to get away. Another one that I'd like you to kind of talk about as we talk about this great escape and talking about fantasy living is like going to the clubs, strip clubs, the bars, all of that. Talk about that from a male perspective as an escape.
All right. So if you got kids around, so people go to strip clubs. We have to admit that it's mostly men.
Okay.
Right? It's mostly men. I'm gonna tell you why. For me, why I believe
historically, yes.
Historically, it's mostly men. Maybe some women y'all have done it before.
There are women's clubs.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm just saying.
Hey, hold on.
Let's keep going. Don't you try it. Don't you try
I was like, I'm from new information. Y'all didn't,
I'm just saying.
She had a life before me, so I'm like, just asking questions.
This dude right here.
Just asking questions.
Go.
So, no, but I think why it's tailored, strip clubs are tailored mostly to men, because in reality, can that man really bring that woman home?
99% of the time, the
99.9999% is no.
Right.
So he goes there to this place, to the establishment, pay his $20, whatever, put it on the table, let her do her thing, dance, this, that, and the other. For the idea of that, man, that's a woman I wish I could have.
Mm.
You're not getting her number. You probably ain't getting her Instagram. She may get you that. She may want 4 followers, but regardless, maybe I think maybe on that. But you're not going.
It's
home.
not to build a relationship.
You're not building a relationship with that person. So the idea is literally say, you know what, men are so, I'm gonna say gullible, but we think in a way of like, you know what, we okay. We know it's a fantasy. Mm-hmm. We know, people say the steaks are good. They are like, how you eat steak with stuff? I don't know.
Stop.
I've heard how people sit. I was like, I never understood. I'm just
alone.
That's what. Anyway, so the idea is that it's a fantasy.
So the same could be said not just a strip club, but any club. Like I remember back in the day, like they say you gotta, the ones that are left when the lights come on, they're the picks because things look different in the dark, But just
true though.
It's
different.
It's different.
It's different.
you might get tricked.
That's the club lights, man. You look, hold on, what's this?
So we're going way off.
Yes.
We're going way off. But the idea of the fantasy of this kind of person. Right. Now, when you talk about like clubs and strip clubs and women and men, like it can, not only can it get dicey, but it can get really hurtful, because there are some, like they say, okay, blame it on the alcohol, but there are a lot of things that become dysfunctional in relationships. And even in our media, even in our entertainment, you'll watch a movie and somebody will be down. They'll want to, let's go to the club. Let's go out. Let's let this perk you up. Or, hey, you just broke up. Okay, let's go to the strip club. Let's throw some money. And those kinds of images are really permeating our culture and how we see these different, not just the spaces, but how you cope with challenges, right, even if they're internal, which goes back to kind of your original point about, hey, you're not really dealing with you, because you go to the strip club or you go to the club or wherever you go, you still have to return to yourself at some point. Like you can't do that. And that really makes me also think of, kind of drugs and alcohol as another form of escape. Though that one was the one that most people say is the more obvious. Like, oh, okay, I'm not doing that, so I'm okay. Like, okay, I'm drinking a little more, but I'm depressed. Somebody passed away, so I'm smoking a little more because I'm depressed, or whatever the thing is. But those can become hooks in you, where now you live in that life, as opposed to dealing with your life so you can live your best life yourself.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on what you're saying. So, like, personally, like, I've never been in the strip clubs, right? That's not been my thing. But back in my day, clubs were on the board for me, right? Go to the club. And I'd say, okay, why did I go to the club? Because I didn't want to be by myself. I didn't want to be sitting at home, which is really, to me, is just a fantasy going to escape. I wasn't necessarily trying to look for anything. You may go have a drink or this, that, and the other. But the whole drinking thing, what you just mentioned, is really just to get away, get escape, and have a fantasy of like, hey, I'm having a good time, right? Because in reality, I didn't know how to have a good time without being around people. So again, to me, it just feeds into the whole fantasy idea. If I ain't around people, if I ain't drinking, then I'm not having a good time. So let me create this fantasy as if I'm cool with me and everything I have, and go around a whole bunch of people, other people that's just as dysfunctional as I am, and saying, hey, let's go have a good time together. And we go back to being normal, or with headaches at 6 a.m. the next day, which ain't cool. Like, so many, like, we get stuck in this mindset. I'm just trying to help, like, people think about potentially like, hey, you know what? We live in a fantasy only because we don't want to deal with ourselves, right? Or a circumstance or situation. My life is boring. I don't really have anything going on. I don't like myself. I ain't quite as bubbly or as talkative when, unless I'm drinking or at a club, this, that, and all these stuff people have said, I've said, and say, you know what? We got to be cool with us, right? The whole idea of having a fantasy is because I'm not cool with me. And I think we just got to look at that.
What are your thoughts then about fantasies that are created around power, like around, the sex, drugs, rock and roll, the idea of money and guns and owning the streets, like, I know that might just be imagery that we see in films, but it's real. Like this idea of if I own this block, like even how gangs function. Hey, this is my spot where I own this much of this thing. I have so much power. What about fantasies that are created like that? Almost like this idea of this house of cards.
Yeah, I mean, that that definitely something that's very. I mean, I think men get affected by both of those. I mean, just even as probably as little boys, right? Probably got some examples of those. But the things that come to my mind, at least the two things or two words that come to my mind, is like men want to be respected, men want to be desired.
Men want to be respected and men want to be desired. Okay.
Like, if a woman ever figures that out, like,
hold on,
no, I'm just saying.
My ears perked up.
It's the idea of like, men want to be respected,
yeah,
right, and they want to be desired,
yeah.
And it's a way to respect me even when he's wrong, right? Or a person in that matter. It can be a man. This case, talking about a man, but the idea, because every man is not right and this, that, and the other. So you got but you have to disrespect him in order to kind of not respect. You know what I mean? To keep the respect there. So the idea of respect and desire is like, okay, to me, those tie with what you just said about the money, right? We think money equals power. If I have a lot of money, then I have a lot of influence, a lot of power. I can garner respect. And also, okay, I can get the desired. Typically, they think, if I got money, there's some people that have money in this society. We think, man, how he get with her? And I got names. I'm not gonna say them.
Don't say them.
I'm not gonna say them. But
I just had a flash.
Yeah, so flash a few names. But like we always look like, man. But typically, he has some money, so he's able to, elevate what he's able to attain in the society with women. And the whole gunplay thing is like, hey, you know what? If I have this something on my hip, people got to respect me. And if you ever notice, I ain't gonna say if you notice it, but if you just kind of just be in tune, I've seen people that say, carry a weapon or, they got something in the trunk or this, that, and the other. They act a little different after they got their piece. They're a little more bold. They're a little more boisterous about, saying stuff. And we're like, hold on, you what? 2 years ago, you want that. What happened? And they, and they got that power, right? And that the idea of packing a gun gave them that fantasy that they're powerful. To me, you're still weak because you're weak on the inside, right? It's not that the idea of being. The whole idea. I don't want to offend nobody that packs a gun. That's not my goal here, right?
Right.
But the idea is that we can't get caught in the idea that we're somebody that we're not.
Yeah, it seems like what you're saying is all the things outside of us that might put us in a position or might make us think that we're something that we're not are really damaging like them in themselves are not harmful. But when you start to live differently, or when you stop assessing yourself because you have these things, then it becomes a problem. Right. Whether it's money or drugs, whether it's drinking, whether it's cars or whatever it is, going different places, you're inserting this life, or you're making this life who you are versus being who you are in that life.
And I think we got one example. I don't think this person's going to be watching, so we can talk about it.
Lord have mercy.
No, we're talking, no names or anything.
Okay.
So we were, me and my wife were having a conversation with this gentleman. He was with his girlfriend at the time. And his girlfriend at the time, she had brothers. And something, maybe, I don't know if it was a conflict or something came up. The brother was they asked him about, hey, how you going to treat my sister? This, that, and the other. Well, this guy that we knew, me and Tristin mutually knew, he said, well, I'm just going to get my gun. I'm going to shoot your brothers. Mm-hmm. And we looked at each other like, nah, you a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, why would that even come out your mouth like that?
Yeah.
Right? But we came to the clue, we had a side conversation separate from that one and said, you know what? When he got the weapon, or started getting weapons, it was this thing he was collecting. He was a collector, right? He became different. Became like this persona of like, hey, I'm this
big bad.
Yeah. We like, no, you're a nice guy. You normal, nice, good family, upbringing.
But I think it goes back to what you said about being desired. Like, hey, if I'm this kind of guy, then I'll be more desirable. Right. And I have this gun so I can back it up. I can look I can look the part. And I think that can be the same with sports. Hey, or proximity. Hey, I'm close to this person, so I got what they've got, or I've got this car or this money or these assets or these abilities, even in the video game world, or, the virtual, not just video games really, but any of the virtual world. Hey, I have these things, I'm able to do this, and that makes me valuable. So I think that there's a lot in there, but I want to give you the last word as we're talking about the male perspective. Yeah. What do they do once they recognized, you're right, I've tiptoed into this fantasy world and I'm no longer happy with myself. I'm living in my escape. What would you say?
Yeah, that's deep right there, right? First part, I think you gave the answer, recognizing it, right? Am I that person? And I think, to be honest with you, we all been that person. I've been that person, you know what I mean? Trying to live some other life and this, that, and the other. Didn't like myself, didn't love myself. I never looked at it like that. But that reality, I go back, I peel back, and you and I talked about it. That's what it was, right? So the recognition is one. And then you just gotta learn how to appreciate you, right? We're all unique. God made us all unique. And the idea that, like, you know what, just because I'm different maybe from the next man or the next person, this, that, and the other, doesn't make me not special.
Yeah.
And I think that cornerstone of just understanding that, right? My uniqueness is something I'm not a abnormality. How you say it?
Yeah,
help me.
Normality.
Say it. Yeah.
I'm not
what
abnormal.
She said. Yeah, I'm not abnormal. What she said. So the idea of that, you know what, we just have to appreciate us, right? We have to grow into loving us, right? I love myself before I can love somebody else. Because I can't expect you to love me out of my not love, you know what I mean? The fact that I don't love me, that's a difficult place for you to be.
Yeah.
So it's something we got to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very good. We definitely want to hear from y'all on this topic, especially you brothers out there, because there's a lot to be said of trying to return to loving yourself and knowing that you're valuable and special, because not many men would say I'm valuable or I'm special, but you are, and you are. Thank you for being here with us. We have a lot more to discuss, so tune in on some of our programs, and as always, check our website for more content and resources at fusemarriages.com. Let's talk about it.